Good morning. Happy Thursday. Well, yesterday, in an attempt to kind of calm you down a little bit, I know that some of you were angered by Jayhawk Wednesday. So I found this in my office. This was given to me when I first came here. My only Nebraska relic, but go Big Red. I hope you, but it plays the Nebraska fight song. I hope you can hear that. I remember hearing that several times growing up, every time Nebraska scored a touchdown, which against Kansas, which was a lot. So that hopefully that. Oh my gosh, what happened there? That was a slip. Um, Last night, Julie and I played darts. Hadn't played darts in a while. It was really fun. You'll have to ask her who won, but she did really good. She's got a good aim. Love bombardment question for the day. Um, I love playing this with you. I love playing this game or this activity. I love doing this. I love playing this with you. Good way of interacting. Yesterday, I mentioned I have been reading through Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John up to um, the cross, and one side story keeps grabbing my attention. It's the story of Barabbas. What an interesting, unlikely character. Matthew refers to Barabbas as a notorious prisoner. Mark and Luke refer to Barabbas as being part of insurrections against the Roman rule in Jerusalem. He was a rebel, and he incited riots against the Romans to overthrow the Roman rule in Jerusalem. He was found, he was arrested. Now, in Luke chapter 23, specifically verse 17, it gives the context that there was a rule that the Romans made to kind of appease the Jews in and around Jerusalem during the time of Passover. What they would do is they would release a criminal, a condemned criminal. They would release him just to appease the crowd, the masses. So here's the context of what I want to look at this morning. Um, the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, has been cross examining Jesus, and he can find no guilt in Jesus. Plus, what contributes to that, his wife has a dream that says, man, stay away from this one. There's something not right here. They weren't believers, they weren't followers of Christ, but Pontius Pilate can't find any grounds to destroy Jesus. And the Jewish leaders, they wanted Christ to die on the cross, but Pilate can't find any crime against him. So we pick it up in chapter 23 of Luke, verses 13 through 16. Let me read it. It says, and Pilate summoned the chief priests and the rulers and the people. So there's a gathering of some masses, an angry mob. In verse 14, and Pilate says to them, you brought Jesus to me as one who incites people to rebellion. And behold, having examined him before you, I've found no guilt in this man regarding the charges which you make against him. No, nor has Herod. So he's saying, King Herod, one of your own, has examined him, for he sent him back to us. And behold, nothing deserving of death has been done to him. This is Pilate's suggestion. In verse 16, I will therefore punish him and release him. No fault is found in Jesus. Pilate, you kind of get the feeling he wants to distance himself from let's kill Jesus bandwagon that's been building. And this is confirmation. Jesus didn't die for what he did. Jesus died for who he was because he made it known, I am God. And so that's why they were so angered by this. That's why they wanted to kill him. They didn't kill him for what he did. They killed him for who he said he was. So we pick it up in 17 through 24, 17 through 25. Let me just read real quick. Now, Pilate was obliged to release to them at the feast one prisoner. But the crowd, the angry mob, the masses, they cried out all together saying, away with Jesus and release us Barabbas, this known murderer. He is one that has been thrown into prison, a certain insurrection made in the city and for murder. He, he incites riots. He has murdered people. He's a convicted criminal. And Pilate, wanting to release Jesus, addresses them again. Then verse 21, but they, the angry mob, kept calling out, saying, crucify, crucify him. And so Pilate said to them the third time, why? What evil has this man done? I found in him no guilt demanding death. Jesus didn't go to the cross for any crime that he committed. He went to the cross for who he said he was. So Pilate, I will therefore punish him and release him. But they were insistent, with loud voices asking that he be crucified, and their voices began to prevail. So Pilate gave in, pronounced sentence that their demand would be granted, and they released Barabbas that they were asking for, who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder. But he delivered Jesus to their will, and Jesus, of course, would be crucified. No fault found in Jesus. You get the gist of this. Their deception is so deep, they would rather crucify the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and release a known criminal. It was if they, what does this have to say about the angry mob? You know, the decisions that once a mob gets going and everybody begins to their cortisol kicks in and they start getting more and more angry, what does that say about the angry mob? But more importantly, what does this say about Jesus? King of Kings rejected, and yet the criminal is accepted. The angry mob rejected the King of Kings and accepts a criminal. It kind of gives life meaning, real significant meaning, to Romans chapter 5, verse 8. God demonstrates his own love towards us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Now think about that verse in this context. God demonstrates his own love towards us in that he is willing to substitute his son for a known criminal. We are Barabbas in the story. I am Barabbas in the story. We are known for our faults. Before we came to know him, we incited insurrections. We were against him. And yet, the amazing thing, the amazing love of God is that Jesus chose to die in our place, even in the midst of his rejection. How incredible. What does that have to say about Jesus? So this is a great discussion for you and your family. Discuss what does that say about the angry mob mentality? When a group of people get together and they just the steam gets hotter and hotter and they begin to talk about somebody. What does that have to say? What does that say about a mob? And just discuss what are the characteristics of a mob. And then what does this have to say about Jesus? What does this say about Jesus and his character? That he is willing to die for us even in the midst of his rejection. It's incredible testimony to who he was. So, have a great Thursday, and we will see you back here tomorrow morning.